Join us on Path of Faith, where we delve deep into the heart of spirituality, offering insights and inspiration to illuminate your path towards a deeper connection with God.
That speaks for the human voice. God comes to us by the word of the one who loves us. God comes to us through that advice that invites us. And how do you know it's a word of someone who wants to save? When you realize that there is coherence in what the other is saying. Because sometimes what irritates us is not that the other told us the truth. It is that we do not want to assume that the other told us the truth. And sometimes there are people who have been trying to tell us for a long time, trying to tell us. And we don't create inner or even outdoor disposition. Because depending on the face we do to another, he knows exactly that he can't say anything to us. And then we are being deaf, although we have the ability to hear. Although we have the ability to hear, we remain deaf. Or is that deafness that the other tells us the truth? The other tells everything we need to hear to improve, to change our lives. And we interpret it as an affront, as a challenge. You can't hear. This happens inside our home too. Sometimes we children raise an antipathy for what the father is saying, for what the mother is saying, for what the brother says. So we get this deafness. The word of the other, however honest it is, as assertive, falls us as unnecessary. This is a great damage, my people, because we are transformed as byword. And if we lose the ability to listen, parents and children, right? You who are a parent, you who are a mother, know exactly how you need to create listening discipline. Children need to be heard. Parents need to be heard. If the relationship is not based on the listening discipline, the family is not possible. And there is a very interesting consonance. Wisdom goes through our ability to listen and also our ability to say. The saying is very precious. I have a lot of respect for what I say. I have a lot of respect for the word I look for, especially here in this space, because I know people are listening. And I also know that some people use what is being said here and then pass on. It is a responsibility. How many times do people who are responsible for our training try to tell us, try to warn of what is being dangerous to us? And we have a filter here, which does not allow the word to fall within our heart. Do you already have such an antipathy? Have you ever created an antipathy for everything she says? So you don't hear what she says. So we hear, get angry at what the other tells us. It's not because he wasn't right. No, it's because he was right. We know that. But we don't want to assume that he was right about what he said. So our deafness also manifests itself there. I heard perfectly the other was able to tell me what I need say, and I didn't consider the truth of what he told me. I did not realize that those words could help me overcome what I need to overcome. I heard with unwell. I heard with laziness. I heard thinking that the other is saying just to piss me off, just to disturb me. Deafness? When I'm deaf because of my lifestyle, not even what I read touches me. I am so agitated. I have such a busy life that I do not have the happy opportunity to be touched by words. So I know many of us need. Many need to live the healing, the dynamics of healing, deafness, and speech. God needs to heal us, tear us all the impediments that were placed by life, by our temperament, by our way of being. That makes us difficult to hear what we need to hear and then unlock our tongue so that we say what we truly need to say. This is what Jesus healed in this man. He cured his deafness first, then aroused his tongue to say again. This is also significant. By being healed of my deafness, I resume the possibility of saying what really needs to be said. Listening to life, listening to the facts, so that I can make a better decision. Because making mistakes, we also make mistakes in the decisions. Father Fabio, for months we have been trying to contact you for months. I hope today we can read our email today. We are really in need of your words, your wisdom, your direction. I lost my father on August 10 last year because he committed suicide. He threw himself under a trailer, was depressed. And I can't conform, Father, for being such a tragic death. And I keep thinking that, in a way, I have my share of guilt. I could have avoided having done more. And what plagues me is the fear that my father does not find eternal salvation because he himself ended his life. Have God forgave him? Or will you forgive you for your weakness? I am on the verge of a depression, alive taken by anguish, longing for him, sadness. Help me, Father. I need a direction in my life. My daughter, we have talked here a few times about these situations that we can't change. We need to bring wisdom into us. If I can't change the fact, then I want to allow that fact to change me. You can't change your father's death and any questions you ask yourself now about whether you could have avoided or not, if you could have done something or not. It doesn't solve anything at all. The fact is there, and you have no way to modify this fact. My people, life, when it is absurd. The absurd inside of philosophy is what has no consistency. It is what cannot be understood because it lacks consistency. Every time we have an absurd reality, we fall into the risk of committing absurd questions too. Inconsistent too. Why is coherence? It is the league of reality with the question. Can it be answered? So there you have a league that makes reality understood. When you don't have this league, it's inconsistency. When I am incoherent, when I say one thing and do another, there is no connection between my behavior and my speech. My daughter, your father's death is an absurd reality for you. For all of us. Because it is not easy for you to see the human being to play under a trailer because of a process of sadness. Contrary to the absurd, unlike the absurd is the meaning. What is the meaning? It is what guides a reality. My life has meaning. There is sense then between what I say and what I live because there is a league, there is a glue. Every time we have a reality that makes sense, we have easier to deal with it. It is life full of answers. The meaning is already, in some way, the answer. But we do not always live with meaning. There are times when the meaning goes away and only the absurdity remains. But in the nonsense, we begin to prepare the meaning. But this path will only be done if we surrender to the arms of the absurd. If you do not deny the nonsense, if you look at it without fear. Because why you fear your father's death? While your father's death causes guilt within you. While your father's death distress you more than it needs. You will never be able to reach meaning. You will be lost in the absurdity of what your father did. Begin to build the sense of the death of your father, my daughter. Do not allow his death to be absurd all his life. Ah, priest. But it's very difficult. No one says it's easy. Removing a reality from the absurdity and putting it in the direction gives work, requires intelligence, requires wisdom, requires silence. And sometimes, my daughter, the biggest difficulty we have in the face of the absurd is that we don't know how to be silent before him. Many years ago, I was invited to visit a gentleman from Recife. He was hospitalized in Sao Paulo. Because a week ago, that day he was hospitalized, his granddaughter was playing on the house's soccer field. It was a very rich family. There was a wind. That child was sitting. While the boys played ball, that 4-year-old girl was sitting behind the post. He had a wind, and that post fell and crushed that child's head. That gentleman was hospitalized with heart problems, was very shaken, and a family person there called asking me to visit him. I would be before his absurdity. You know what, in fact, went through in the head of that person who told me to make the visit? It is that when I got there, I would build a speech, that I would make a whole explanation of what happened. Try to convince that man of what he even knew, I just told him that he was there, that if he happened to need me, he could count on me, that I could visit him more often, that if he needed someone in Sao Paulo, I could count on me, that I would be available. But I didn't comply with that person's expectation, you know why? Increasingly, I am convinced that, given the absurdity, a silence and a friendly stance is worth much more than an inopportune word. Many times, in the face of absurdities, we have that temptation to argue, to say, because it seems that the absurd puts us as people who do not see the absurd. He would not be absurd, he would be felt. And the beauty of Christianity is there, my people, in putting within us a humility so that the absurdity touch our lives and touch the lives of those who are on our side. We are at least fraternal. Witnessing the resurrection does not mean that we do not cry, and Jesus cried the death of Lazarus. To testify to the resurrection is that we do not fall into despair. Crying is right for all of us. Put out the feeling, that slaughter, which makes us suffer. Put the cause of our suffering out. This is Christian. And it is even more Christian those who are on the side and know how to welcome our suffering, our absurdity. Do you have so many nonsense in your life? So much that you still don't know how to answer? So much that happened and you would give you everything to receive the answer. But you don't have it? So, will you stop living because the absurd visited your home? Will you stop living because the absurd visited your life? No, you will be silent in the face of nonsense. You will suffer what you have to suffer and will reach the meaning until life will turn the absurd into the direction. It is possible. All of us who work with good, our main objective is not to respond to the absurdities of the world. No, it is to help the world resolve its absurdities calmly. Let it go in the process, as well as the rail, just as the train slides on the track. Let it also in life we should reach meaningful, but without forcing. If the absurd is here, my daughter, and the most beautiful way you can live the absurdity of your father's death is that you expel the whole process of guilt within you. No longer committed this absurdity, because if your father has killed himself because of anguish and depression, beware. Because you go to the process of guilt and you also risk the risk of commit another nonsense to take your life because of the blame you have fed within you. Then we will have two absurdities. And then you will not reach the meaning of your father's life, the death of your father's. Tragedies all the time happen before us. And what do? How do we react? If we could change the order of things, we would change. If we could avoid a tragedy now, we would avoid. But if we do not have the possibility to avoid first process, it looks at the absurdity that is before you and does not allow it to be greater than it is. No theme. Because every time we are afraid of a particular reality, it loves itself before us, and it begins to send us. To be afraid, my people, we will authorize that the other that we fear send us in us, and God enters our lives. He takes care of us. He provides. It is precisely the raw material of your reflection, your life, so you can refer yourself from absurdity to meaning, so that you can get out of that reality that you cannot say absolutely about it, until the answer you deserve, and that one day will reassure your heart. And the one who knows how to live the process of absurdity to meaning becomes an extremely wise person to help others live as well. Because today, on your side, or even you, it may be that today the absurd is very close, and you are someone capable of helping to understand the meaning that has not yet come. Understanding that this waiting time, that this absurd time will need a lot of caution, it will take a lot of wisdom, so that we can go through this path without it suffering us. Pour upon all of us, victimized by the absurdities of life, the blessing of the Almighty God, and forwards us to the meaning we all need. He who is Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. It is so significant what it is deaf to hear again, deafness. It is for the one who has. By the way, I heard another day saying that deafness is even worse than blindness, because blindness leaves me away from the world. Deafness removes me from people. When I'm blind, I stop seeing the world. When I'm deaf, I stop being with people. This should cause a great loneliness, right? So being healed of deafness is to be returned to people. But we might think, but I don't have this physical deafness. I don't need to be healed from this physical deafness. Oh, but I have that deafness that drives me away from people because I lost the ability to hear. The listening, right? And it's interesting because when I don't know how to hear, I naturally provoke the other. An indisposition to hear me too, me. When Jesus returns to man this ability to hear, he is returning him to people. This is very interesting to identify. What a part and what made it difficult to be with others. In have qualified relationships. When I say qualified relationships, they are relationships that do us good, that make us grow. Because salvation comes to us in the ear. I knew that. By the word that transforms us. Ruben Alves said this, that he saw so many advertising of oratory courses to teach people to talk. A course to teach how to speak in public, to have a good rhetoric, to know how to argue. But he was unaware of a listening course, which was precisely to teach us to listen. When we lose the ability to listen to each other, when we lose our willingness to listen to each other, we compromise our relationships a lot. Much of the conflicts we face at home is because we unlearned from listening. And when I say hear, my people is to create the ambience, the willingness for what needs to be said. To be said. Because sometimes we even say, but the wrong way. We say to the screams what should be said with patience, with calm, serenity. And so we do not solve the questions. And you know, my people, the word transforms our lives. God created the world through the word, and he continues to transform the world through the word. And we who believe in Jesus are recreated and transformed from his word. He did it in the lives of many. And God saves us through the words of the well-meaning people who love us. But if we don't listen to these people, how I will enjoy the benefit saving that comes to me by the word of the other. I always think that. When I testify to what God has done in my life, I offer a way for the other to walk and make a similar experience. It is never the same. The experience is never the same, because the God that happens in me. What God does in me, he will do from what I am. When God happens in you, he will happen from what you are. So our experiences will be different because we are different. Although God is the same, it's just that I have different needs, and God will act according to my needs. Why do I feel the desire to be better when I take a contact with God's word? Because here I already have the strength of the Spirit acting on me, especially in the gospel. When we proclaim at Mass, it is the real presence of Jesus. It is the real presence. Another day, during a retreat that I preached, I reflected on the seriousness of God coming to us through the real presence of his Son, through the Word. It is interesting because we are in a time where we are very unquestionable to hear. We want to speak. We talked a lot. Sometimes we hear little, and because we hear little, we miss the opportunity to send solutions, or even to correct some edges between us. I'm deaf. I am not being able to perceive the voice that guides me. I am not being able to decode the voice of God.